Hey everyone, welcome to this builders session with me. I'm going to be walking through some cool stuff using Amazon Sumerian. So a few housekeeping items is that I'm currently streaming in two different places. On my channel, on Twitch, and also on the Sumerian YouTube channel. So that means that I'm managing two different chat rooms. This is not something I intend to do for many weeks in a row. This is kind of an experimentation to see kind of which is working better for us. So anyway, I am looking at a chat room in two different chat rooms. So if you are on Twitch, welcome. If you are on YouTube, also welcome. But you might see I might be answering questions that are answered or asked in other rooms or in another chat room or on a different platform, if you will. And so I'm looking at my computer, looking at some question. Not a question. There is a italic mic. All right. Hello. I think that I totally butchered your handle a couple weeks ago. I tried to pronounce it super weird. But anyway, I think I got that one right. Okay. Today we're going to be looking at builder session and office hours. So of course, feel free to ask me any questions that it doesn't have to be related at all to the topic that I'm going over. Again, we're just kind of like gradually working through a project, trying and experimenting with different things. And I'm actually excited for some of the things that I kind of have coming up, or that some other things that I'm working on. So, but anyway, you don't have to ask questions that are related to anything that I'm doing. So this week, we're going to be looking at lights and speech. And so I will show you what we're going to do here in a moment. But before I do that, I want to jump. Actually, I'm logged in my scene. I'm going to jump out of my scene and go to a different one. I had a question on Slack today. An individual was asking me, how do you, what was the question? How do you interact with your spheres or your sky spheres? And so how do you make some custom sky spheres, like move around and change based on some interaction? That is a very interesting question, and I'm going to try to answer, I think, best. I'm going to try to answer the question. I hope I'm understanding the question. So to the individual that was asking me that, I don't know if I actually pronounced that name out loud. So let me go check. Fimiani? Wait, Fimiani. Pimiani. I'm totally butchered. Fimiani 7, I think. You can spell that out in the chat room if you were watching. If that might help me not sound like someone who can't talk. So, all right. Oh, italic mic is Chris from Slack. Oh, hello. Good to chat with you over here in the chat room. Okay, let me jump over to my screen and get started. Okay, the map on Twitch, that's what we're going to be looking at, even though we're now on YouTube. I just also want to make sure that I'm good. There I am. Cool. There I am. All right, we're good. All right, I'm going to create a new scene. And I'm just going to call this Sky Sphere QA. Did I spell it right? Doesn't really matter. All right, we're going to click Create. And so again, I'm currently going to answer a question that I got on Slack recently, which was, how do you change sky spheres? Well, the first answer to that is creating your own unique sky sphere. So right now, we have a sky sphere that is this blue sky sphere background. And you can change that. Let me import an asset to use it for a 360-degree image. So I'll just select this image here. I think these are all in Seattle. This is Gasworks Park, if you are familiar with Seattle. Very cool park. All right, so if we go to our environment and we edit our sky sphere. Right now we have this, it's actually a very thin, I think it's 1 pixel wide sky sphere that is like just kind of wrapping itself around this whole scene. To be honest, I don't know why that works. I've always wondered that, and maybe I should ask one of the creatives. But I do know that if I take this 360-degree image and add it here, it'll wrap itself around the scene. Okay? Now, that's on the official, or the sky sphere proper, if you will. So that is the like infinitely far away sky sphere that we can't really touch. And I don't think there are any, he posted the sky sphere solution, is what Chris, or Italic Mike. That's confusing. Italic Mike and Chris Azure. I'm not actually sure if I'm pronouncing your last name right. Why do you have two different names? That's a good question. He posted the sky sphere solution. I'm not sure if you could point me to that. I did not see the solution, but I've already started, so I'm just going to keep going because maybe some other people are interested. The guy posted a scripted sky sphere solution. You can change it with a click. All right, well, I'm going to do the same thing. Here's another way to do it. All right, so right now I added a sky sphere to the official sky sphere, but I don't want to do that because that doesn't really help us. I'm going to create an entity, and I'm going to make it a sphere, and I'm going to make it a large sphere. Let's maybe go 50. All right. And so now I'm inside the sky sphere, but I can't see it because the material culling is set backwards. The cull face is back. So that means you can see the sphere on the outside, but not on from the inside. So I will do the front. And so now I can see the sphere from the inside. Now I'm going to take that same sky sphere that you added here and add it there. Now the lights are probably a little bit interesting. It's also sideways, which is easy to fix. All we need to do is just bring that up to -90 degrees. Okay. So now we have kind of our own sky sphere that we can actually exit. So it's not really infinitely far away. We can exit it if we want. And I'll create another sky sphere. And I'll do the same thing. We'll make it 150. We'll make it -90. So we're really duplicating the size of it. And the culling is also front. So you see how it is hidden. And then we're going to import assets. Let's just grab a different. Here's another one, also in Seattle, I believe. And we'll go ahead and also add that to the color diffuse texture. Okay, great. But you notice, so now we really have two. All right, so let's say we want to click on something and switch between the two. Let me think. Okay, I'm going to just add a box, just something I can click on. All right, and I'm going to do sphere 2. I'm going to hide it originally. So let me think. What am I going to do? All right, for this box, I'm going to add a state machine. We're going to call this one click, and we'll call it this first state click, and then click. So many clicks, and then we will add state again. If you watch this channel a lot, you might notice that we use a lot of emit messages. It's because that's the best way to get objects and entities to communicate with one another. All right, so I just added a click state, click action on the click state. I added a emit action on the emit state, and then I also added a transition action to the state because otherwise I wouldn't be able to transition to anything. Then I'm just going to duplicate the click, and then I'm going to duplicate the emit. All right, now for this first emit, it's going to be, we're going to call it show 2, and then for the other one we're going to call it hide 2, because let's actually do this. Ooh, I actually have a better idea. I'm gonna make this sky sphere just slightly smaller than the other one. So that means I'm doing that just so it's just a little bit on the inside, so there's not gonna be any blending of the two things because they're sitting in the same spot. And so really, if sky sphere 2 is showing itself, then you won't be able to see sky sphere 1. Meaning you don't have to hide the sphere 1. You can just let it be. All you have to do is really worry about displaying or showing and hiding sphere 2 because it's just a little bit on the inside, and if you're from the inside, then that's all you'll see. I hope that makes sense. I think it does. All right, so let's go back to our click action. So show to and then hide to. Those are the two messages being emitted. And I'm just going to connect those up with transitions. Then I'm going to go to sphere 2 and add a state machine. Then if you ever have an emit action, you're probably going to at some point have a listen action because something's got to be listening to it. And then so we'll look for a listen action. That didn't work. Listen. I know I'm going kind of quick, but I want to get to the main. Oh, somebody is also saying on YouTube, W, what's going on? Hey there, W. I'm just doing I'm answering a question on how do you click something and change which sky sphere you see. So I created 2 sky spheres and now I'm moving them around, or creating a behavior to hide and show them. So we're going to call this one show to. Then we're going to add state, and we're going to call it show. Then add action. We're going to look for show. Then we're going to add a transition because there's no transition for the show. I'll wait for that. Then we're going to duplicate the listen action again. And we're going to call this one hide to because it's listening for that hide to message. Then, nope. Then add state. I'm going to add a hide action and look for this hide action. But again, see how there's no transition down here? So I need to add an action, search for transition. Sometimes actions do not have a transition label to transition to another state. So then you just, all you need to do is add a transition action. All right. So now I'm wiring this up. So really what I have is, I have a behavior on the box that when I click on it, it emits a message. And when I click on it again, it emits a different message. And it just goes in a loop. Then I have on the, what's the word? Can't think of the right word. On sphere 2, I have a behavior that is listening for that message. And once it hears that first message, it'll show the sphere. And then when it hears the next message, it'll hide it again. So right now, by default, I have it hid over here just to get it started. Which nothing. So I'm looking, I am currently looking at sphere 1. So this Gasworks Park image. And then I click this. And then it shows me the other one. And I click it again. And all it's doing is emitting a message to hide and show sphere 2. And sphere 2 is just a little bit on the inside, a little bit smaller, 1 unit smaller than sphere 1. And so it, therefore, sphere 1 is actually not going anywhere. It just is being hidden, I guess, by sphere 2. Does that make sense? And then, sorry, italic mic, only one sphere is listening. Correct. And that's, you could do it to where the other one hides itself when the other one shows itself, but you don't really need to do that if the other one is just like on the inside of it. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Let's see if I can demonstrate this. So you can't really tell the difference. They're both there at the same time, but they're just slightly different sizes. All right, so there you go. That's how I would do it if I was trying to do something with interactive sky spheres. All right, so let's go back to our other scene. And let's go to map on Twitch. Simple is good. Yes, agreed. Moik the Squid. Mike, my man. Mike and I did a cool demo and workshop in San Francisco, the San Francisco Loft, the AWS Loft. Gosh, was that just last week? Finally got to meet in person. It was great. Okay, so let's see. What are we doing this time? Let me show you what I created, and then we're going to rebuild it. All right, so remember we have this scene. I'm just looking at the Slack, the Slack channel. Not Slack, Twitch. So many channels. Okay, yeah, so we're saying that somebody was doing a much more complicated thing for that same. Yeah, it's a pretty simple thing. It's just two behaviors with just like a couple states in each one. for that sky sphere thing. Okay, so what I have for this one, remember I've been working on this scene. What I want to do is show like, okay, what if we've done some stuff where you hover over, like right here, you can't really see it very well. But if I hover over something like a notification like, hey, this building is for, or this apartment is for rent. And then I click on it and then I can get that view of the apartment. I did something else to where I click on the bridge and then I get a good view of the bridge. Did that work? Interesting. That did not work like I expected it to. What was I going to say? That just kind of threw me off. All right, but this time, let me stop the scene. This time what I would like to do is click on a building and switch cameras to a different building and then get a description of that building. So not something too super complicated. But it kind of brings together a few different things. And also, but how do you indicate that something is clickable? If you notice, click out of this. I added a little icon that shows, hey, it's kind of just moving up and down, constantly up and down, saying, hey, you can click on this. And if I do click on it...
The Empire State Building has 102 floors and is an Art Deco skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Designed by Shreve, Lamb and Harmon and completed in 1931, and stands a total of 1,454 feet tall.
Right, and then it goes back to this camera. So, and that whole description came from our beloved friend, Wikipedia, and a few edits in there. Okay, so how do we do that? It's actually pretty simple. And I want to show something else that you can do. A lot of people have questions on versioning, and so I'm going to, so I created this already, and now I'm going to back up and go to a version that doesn't have that and then rebuild it. So that's actually something else that's interesting is snapshots. This is something also Moik the Squid is very good at doing. So snapshots, I'm going to go to snapshot, and if I've created a few snapshots, which I have here, and I kind of, I titled them like pre-Golden Gate Bridge animation, and then Golden Gate Bridge test animation, hover building tests, Empire complete, and then I did pre-Empire click. All right, so right now I'm actually on, where am I? Actually, I don't know. I'm not quite sure where I am. I'm going to go to pre-Empire click. I'm going to just restore the session. And anytime you want to like kind of save a spot, if you're to a point you're like, okay, I want to save it as this, and so I want to be able to revert back to this version. All you got to do is go to your top level entity, which I have named as map on Twitch, so it's my scene level entity. Then I go to snapshots, so it's taking just a minute to reload it. Then I go to snapshots, and you can start taking as many snapshots of your scene as you want. So it is loading. Loading. Okay, there we go. Now if you notice, how do I know this one's different? Because I don't have that pointer icon just kind of going up and down. If I get to that point, then great. If I don't, that's okay too. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, one thing I want to do is I want to create a camera that has that specific view, and I also want to have a spotlight that points at that at the Empire State Building. It's not actually the Empire State Building, but you know, kind of looks like it. Then I have a spotlight that kind of shines down on it to kind of like highlight it. But if you also notice, it dimmed all the other lights around it too. So how do we do that? Let's stop and do a few things. Let's first create a spotlight. There's my spotlight. It is pointing in the opposite direction. Close. I'm going to angle it kind of that way. And you see how my translations are kind of like off now? It's because it's according to the local transform values of the actual light. If I change it to global, then it sets it back to the whole scene. So now I'm not going to be like moving things at an angle. I can really just move them in relation to the entire scene itself. So now I'm really just trying to shine. Oh, I overshot it. trying to shine this light on this building. If you notice, the lights only come so far. And so I need to click on my light, and I need to increase the range to a little bit further. And it's probably going, it's not quite where I want it to be. So I need to angle it down a little bit more, get back to the translation. We'll get back to the global settings. If you notice, it doesn't, I'm not really getting much, the light is there, but it's not really adding much to it. So I got to increase the intensity of my light. Okay, so I almost increased it all the way. The next thing I need to do is create a camera that has a good view of the building from up above. So I'm going to create a fixed camera. What's the question? Okay, so I'm looking at the Twitch chat room. Let's see. Is that just one model? All right, so let's see. Vegetarian Zombie. Great name. I'm asking, you're probably asking about this whole model. This is something I found on TurboSquid. It's called, trying to remember, I can't remember what it's called, but I found it on TurboSquid. I did pay for it. And it doesn't come in as a whole model. Like, I actually had to do a little bit of work outside using Maya to kind of compress it a little bit to get it into Sumerian. A step that I've always told people, hey, you can go here and get this scene. I actually forgot about that step. So it's a very large, it's a huge model. And so I had to do some work to scale it down size-wise to make it work into Sumerian. So that's the answer. This is all free, Italic Mike is asking. So no, this is not all free. There are various places you can purchase this model. And somebody else actually purchased it from another site as well. So there's a few different places. If you are curious about finding this model, then ping me on Slack, and I can kind of give you some different options. This has to be taking up lots of AWS resources, Italic Mike says. I'm not sure what you mean by that. And, ooh, there we go. So, Femiani, gosh, I wish I knew. You can get this model on, I wish I could pronounce your name. I'm really sorry that I don't know how to pronounce it. Femiani 7? Maybe that was it. I got this on TurboSquid. I was just answering that. But you can actually get it in a few different places. Again, hit me up on Slack if you are wanting this model, and I can provide a link for you. Okay. All right. So we added a camera. Call it our fixed cam. It is way over here. And if you notice a little preview down here, it's not at all where we want it to be, or it's not where we want it. Come on. I'm going to spit. Nope. Oh, I didn't want to do that one. Maybe I should just zoom in on this guy. I'm having a hard time really zeroing in on these rings here. That's not what I want. There we go. Just positioning it. Okay, there we go. Now, sorry, I was really silent there for a second. I'm going to return all my values to 0. I'm going to do it this way. There we go. That's actually a lot easier. Nope, I don't want Z because that kind of tilts it in a weird way. All right, so I'm really just looking down here. All right, good. we're going to work now on a single state machine behavior to do a couple things. To switch cameras to this camera, to turn on and off lights, and then also to play a speech component that will talk about this, talk about the Empire State Building, of which I actually forgot to copy over that speech file. That's okay. You really can do whatever you want. Okay, so what do we want to do? Let's add the state machine to the Empire State Building. Where is my Empire State Building? Oh no, I forgot to do something. I just remembered. Oh, this one doesn't. I pulled the building out of. Oh, I think it's building 7, actually. Oh my goodness. All right, great. Sometimes for this particular model, just the way it works, it can be a little bit frustrating to find all the different buildings, because all the buildings are like subsetted or nested within everything else. So okay, there's my Empire State Building. So I'm going to add a state machine. Okay, crisis averted. I'm going to call this one, we'll call it Click Empire. Okay. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that the light, the spotlight, is turned off when I just lost it. I want to make sure the spotlight that I just created is turned off when I start my scene. That's what I want to be my initial state. So I'm going to do, excuse me, set light, and add action, set light properties, and the intensity just needs to be to 0, not the letter O, to 0. Okay, and then also you notice this is one thing we haven't really talked much before about. You don't have to use like emitting messages. You can actually just do it when it comes to lights. You can really just apply the different lights you want affected into the state machine behavior. So you don't actually have to create a state machine behavior on the light itself. You can just drag and drop the light you want it to apply to over here. So I think called here, and I named it, I shouldn't call it Spotlight, just so I know. Get back to my click behavior. Right, so now I'm going to drag my Spotlight over here. I'm also going to put my Spotlight inside my default lights. Okay, so now it will be turned off. The spotlight will not be on when we start a scene. Then we need to transition to something else. We'll add state. This one's going to be a simple click action. And add action, we're just going to, we just did that in the last example. More questions. Boater asks, hello, Jake. Awesome. Live. Yes, hello. Welcome on YouTube and then also on Twitch. 3D SMX has a feature to create camera from view. Would be a cool feature to add here. To create camera from view. Yeah, I'm curious actually what that means. Sync your battleship. Ooh, that could be. Actually, next week I'm actually going to work on a demo to use to do something with the ship. That's going to integrate more with AWS services. Haven't figured it out quite yet, but I'm going to try to get that done this week. All right, so then we're going to add another state. We want to set lights again, so I'm actually going to just duplicate this one. I can move that state. I don't need that at the moment. So set lights. But this time, I want the spotlight to go to 1. And now I also want to turn off all the other lights. So I'm going to add set light properties. I'm going to add one of those. And then I'll add another one of those because there are 3 other lights I want affected. And we'll add one more of those. But you notice that my transition is down above these. I need to bring that transition to be the bottom, at the very bottom of all of these. Now let's drag all our default lights, the ones we want to now turn off. So we'll tune these up. Well, I'll do this. Okay, our fill, our key, and our rim. All are going to go down to, whoa, what is going on? 0, 0, 0. Okay, so set lights. Next, we want it to use this state over here. I already added it. We'll go to switch camera. So while we usually do a lot of behaviors that switch between behaviors and using emit and listen and all that, this one is actually going to be like a lot of things all within one state machine, which is kind of nice. So switch camera. Can do fixed cameras. See, I have a lot of cameras in here. Why is that cam isometric view? I don't know why that's in there. So we'll go to switch camera, but notice there's no transition, so I do have to add one. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Then we're going to add another state. I think this is what I did in my example. And now we're going to do a start speech because we want to emit a speech. So start speech. Problem is, I don't actually have a speech yet. We will work on that in a minute. We'll come back to that. Once that is done, I want to switch. I want it just to automatically switch to a different camera. So I'm going to duplicate the switch camera and then select camera 1, which is actually the one that's down at the base, near the base of that building. Then I want to turn all the lights back on. So I'm going to duplicate the set light properties. So the spotlight, I want to then turn off, so I'll make that 0. These other ones, I want to turn them all back on, so I'll make them all 1. I think I'm missing something here. I don't remember. So we will see. Let's see how this works. It's not going to have the speech, which means that the behavior won't actually be able to finish because if it has no speech, it can't start a speech. If it can't start a speech, it can't end the speech. And if it can't end the speech, this state will not be able to switch to this one. But that is okay. We'll just make sure that it's working. Okay, great. So all the lights turned off. It's switched to this camera, but for some reason, the lights did not, this spotlight did not turn on. I don't know why that happened, so I'm going to have to investigate this. I think I know why. Okay, I think it actually did turn on, but if you remember, if we go to that spotlight, the intensity we had set to like really high. And in this state machine behavior, the light properties only went to 1. And if it only goes to 1, then it's like, well, it might not actually just be like reaching. It might not be reaching the building. Additionally, the range might not be enough. So let's go back to our spotlight to see what the range was. Yeah, so the range was 134. That's not necessarily like a perfect number or anything. It's just something I sort of estimated. So let's just make sure that it's at least close. Okay. And let's try it again. funny. I actually am currently getting a phone call from my brother who just had a baby, which is really awesome. And I have to decline it because I'm currently on Twitch. I wish I could explain that to him. All right, perfect. It works. Okay, so then it starts the speech in theory. So now we have to go add a speech. Okay, but one thing is a lot of people add speeches only to hosts. So that's actually one interesting thing is that you don't actually have to apply speeches to only hosts. You can apply a speech to anything. It might not lip sync, but that's fine. This Empire State Building is probably, I mean, you really add it onto anything. Well, actually, because this save machine behavior is on the Empire State Building, it's best to add the speech component to the Empire State Building, because then you can just like start the speech from that action. Otherwise, you'd have to like emit a message to start the speech and so forth to a different entity. So let's go back to our city sections. Remember Empire there. And I just need to add component. What am I looking for? Speech. There we go. All right, great. Drop a speech file, so I just need to press the plus button to get a new speech. And let's just go to Empire State Building. That's not what I wanted. I really just wanted this. All right. And then this might not be perfect speech, but that's okay. So let's go back to our click behavior or our speech. Now I have to select that speech that is just titled speech. So let's see how it works. So it's just waiting for me to click. I can click it from here, or I can actually move my camera closer to this other location. If I'm at the base, I want to learn more about this building. I click on it. And it's not playing the speech. Did I save the speech? I don't know. I may have not saved the speech. Ah, I remember what happened here. It doesn't like this, the ampersand. So you got to make sure that you are you're not inserting any characters that Amazon Poly doesn't like. I should have actually checked the console.
The Empire State Building is a 102-story Art Deco skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Designed by Shreve, Lamb & Harmon and completed in 1931, the building has a roof height of 1,250 feet and stands a total of 1,454 feet tall.
Cool. I'm going to check to make sure that, okay, we are still on. So we are currently experimenting with streaming in 2 different places, YouTube and Twitch. So I'm just making sure, and it looks like we're still good on both. Last time I did this, like for some reason Twitch just like broke, didn't work. Worked on YouTube, but it didn't work on Twitch. So anyway, I just want to make sure, and if you have any feedback, like if something isn't working right or doesn't look right, please let me know, because I'd be curious to know how this is working from the customer, from the user, the viewer perspective. Okay, so what is that other thing we wanted to do? We wanted to, actually don't know if I have that on here. That image of the finger pointing. I don't have it actually on me. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to default to, I don't have it on my computer, so I can't really show it. Build it. I'm just going to go to Empire Complete. We're going to restore. So I could create another snapshot here. And something I don't know is that now that I did not create a snapshot of that version, if it will delete it. That's actually a good question I should ask. Did I just lose everything I just built because I didn't take a snapshot of it? and so I have no way of like returning to that. Probably. So you got to make sure that if you are if you're going to a different snapshot, that you save everything, or you create a new snapshot to essentially save the progress you'd made on the previous version. So what I just created doesn't really exist anymore, which is actually fine. Doesn't really make a difference, but just something to keep in mind. This doesn't make a difference for me. This current scene. Okay, so what is this? This is really just a quad, and I just added a interesting image to it. There's just like a transparent like finger pointing thing. And how do we get it to just like go up and down? Well, there's a few different ways you could do it. You could easily create a timeline to have it go up and down. But for something as simple as this, it really just makes sense to create a pointer. One thing that I did not include, that's right. There's something I missed in the other version. Let me go to my Empire action. One thing that I added, this is what I'm missing. I did emit a message in between here, so that I click on the Empire State Building, it changes the lights, it moves the camera, emits a message, and then it sets a light. That happens in 1, 2, 3 frames out of 60 per second, so it like happens pretty quickly. Then it goes, well, actually, it actually emits the message, then starts the speech, and then after the speech is over, then it switches the lights on and off. Emits another message, and then switches the camera, and then goes back to click. So all that happens like very, very quickly. But what are these messages for? There's a few things I was attempting to do with those, but really all I ended up doing with them is this. So this is my default down. So really all it is going down. It has a tween move attached to it. It goes down 5 units and 1500 milliseconds. So it just is going down, and then it goes back up 5, down 5. So that's all it's doing. Oh, I'm using a tween move, by the way. And so I want it, let's see, tween move. This is important. So because this is a tween move, I do want to have the relative checked mark, because otherwise it would go to the 0, 5, 0 coordinate, which is like right over here. It'd be like right here-ish. And that's not what it would actually move the whole thing over there. That's not what you want. All you really want doing is you just want it to go down, and then you want it to go up. So you want it to go relative to its current position, and then back up relative to its current position. Does that make sense? So again, if you don't have relative, it's going to go to the absolute coordinates, which are 0, -5, 0, or 0, +5, 0, which is way over here. Because if you know, every time like I create anything, like for example, I'll create a box, you see where that is? You go up 5 units, and that's going to be what we're talking about. I'll get rid of that. Pointer Empire. Let's get this back. And then, but however, I don't want it still there when I'm actually on that camera and viewing it. What do you, let's see. Italic Mike. God, Jake, snap out of it. Snap out of what? What am I doing? Oops. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. Ah. Thank you. I do that usually once a stream. Let me just cover what I just blabbed about and didn't show, probably. Okay, so that pointer. So that pointer is really just a quad with an image attached to it, and I placed it to be up above and pointing down at the Empire State Building, and then I have a tween move to go down -5, but again relative, and then it goes back up relative, unless it hears that emit message. If it hears that emit messages, it goes over to this state, which will hide that image. And then once it hears the other emit message, which is Empire off, it will then transition to show, And then it'll go back here. So really, it's like it's going to that up and down thing. It's moving up and down until you click on something, and then it's basically signaling it to hide it because you don't want it still moving up and down when you have that other camera. Again, sorry that I was not on the right screen. I always do that, again, at least once a stream. So that's how that works. And so it's actually like, see how it's working? It's going up and down, going up and down. If I click on
the Empire State Building has 102 floors and is an Art Deco skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. Designed by Shreve, Lamb and Harmon and completed in 1931, and stands a total of 1,454 feet tall.
I can't stop. There it goes. Then it goes back, and then it goes back to up and down, up and down, up and down. All right. So that's it. That's how you do some of these behaviors. If there are any other questions, Italic Mike, I think I did show. So Italic Mike, tell me if I did. I think that I showed you what you were looking at, wanted to see. It's this behavior right here. See how it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I will wait a second to see if I answer any more questions. But I don't have anything else to show today. What I would like to do next week is a few ideas. I'm working on an IoT demo to show. Hopefully I can get this up in the next couple weeks. Again, having to learn some new things, which is really fun. I want to show how do you actually stream data and publish messages, publish data or to a topic in IoT, have Sumerian listen to that topic, then a message being emitted upon a certain topic being emitted, posted in IoT, and then something happening within Sumerian. So that's one thing I want to do. I also want to use a DynamoDB integration so that when you click on something, you pull data from DynamoDB to display on your screen. So those are two different demos that I'm working on that hopefully I can get something working by next week. But thanks for joining this week. I have to master the state machine. This is awesome. Italic Mike, you are correct. State machine is actually really, really great. Some people love scripting instead. That is not me. I really like the state machine. It can do a lot of cool stuff. There's some limitations, and sometimes you have to do a lot of several state machines to make everything work together, but it's just kind of the way it is. Which I don't mind. I think it's cool to see them all working together, as long as you can wrap your head around everything that's happening. As you can see over here, I have a bunch of state machines, but if you title them correctly, it's not too difficult to keep track. All right, thank you all for joining, and we will see you next week. I believe I got to check the schedule, but I should be here next week. Of course, I will be posting in, just letting you know when it is, and so you can always check my Twitch channel to know when it's going to be available. So anyway, thanks for joining, and we will see you another time. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, we changed, before I jump off, we changed some of the documentation stuff. We made it a lot easier. We made a better documentation page. Let me just go to it for you real quick and share my screen. So docs.sumerian.amazonaws.com is now here, and it shows videos. You can go to the Sumerian YouTube channel showing what's new. So we actually have a bunch of new tutorials on here, dynamic speech during runtime. There's just some really cool tutorials that I would highly encourage you to check out. You can join us from Slack here. So instead of like giving you a bunch of URLs to get to all these different things, you come here and you can really access anything and everything. So the tutorials, articles, user guide, scripting API, and then actually getting into Amazon Sumerian. You can all do it from this one page. And so we're no longer going to be posting a bunch of different URLs. We are only going to be posting this one URL that I'm going to show you in a second. And with that, I will sign off and see you next week. Goodbye.